This is the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
The death of the penny. There are right now about 240 billion pennies floating out there, weighing as much as 3 Nimitz aircraft carriers. Whole lot of metal sitting in your drawer, on top of your dressers, maybe in the cushions of your couch or under the seat of your car. Now the penny faces its biggest challenge yet. Not from Congress, not from the Treasury, but also from Elon Musk. Musk called out the absurdity. The Department of Government Efficiency points out that it costs just about 3 cents to produce 1 penny, and Musk wants to end it. I was reading a little bit about this, and I was actually struck by what other nations have done with currency. I mean, some places won't even take your pennies. Look, it's legal tender, right? You should be able to buy anything you want with whatever the currency of this country happens to be. I had seen that, I was reading that Canada, Australia, Sweden, and New Zealand, they've all ditched their lowest value coins, and it doesn't have any real consequence. Because people are saying, well, what happens if gas is $2.99? Do you drop it to $2.95? Do you just round it up to $3? In Canada, the government simply rounds cash transactions to the nearest nickel, and then your life goes on. It all kind of averages out. I bet that's what we're going to see. So the question is, why is America still clinging to their pennies? Tax, some people say, businesses have got to handle them. They got to count them, roll them, deposit them. Consumers waste time fishing them out at the register. There's a lot of money that's lost every year by minting these pennies as well. So Michael Fuljenz joins me today. He's president of the Universal Coin and Bullion, and you can find them at universalcoin.com. Mike, good to have you with me today. Good afternoon.
Drew, it's an honor to be on the show. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Give me your take on this particular proposal by Musk wanting to get rid of it. How realistic is it? Will it save us money? Give me your thoughts on the penny.
Well, I wrote an extensive article on it, and it's the cover of Coin Age magazine, one of our industry's leading mags. It's at Books A Million or Barnes & Noble. I'm not trying to sell the magazine. I covered it. I interviewed the mint director, Ventress Gibson, 3 weeks ago in Orlando, and she says it now costs 4 cents to make a penny. Trump said over 2 cents, I think, and others have said 3. Zinc was up 35% this year, so we lose 3 cents. They make a profit on the 1 cent. I mean, they sell. It's got a face value of 1 cent. So they lose 3 cents on about 4 billion plus pennies a year. So it's about 120 million they lose a year making pennies. Times 10, it's over $1 billion over 10 years. Both mint directors appointed by Democrats and Republicans have said we should end it, bipartisan. Both presidents like Obama and now Trump have said we should end it. You can delay it with what Trump is saying, but it takes congressional action to end it. And if they end it, they could just maybe make some pennies for collector sets, proof sets, mint sets that they make money on. But if they end it, it's got bipartisan support. And then economists have studied on both sides. Surrounding rules hurt the poor. And there's a difference of opinion on that, but you just round, like we learned in 5th grade, the 0 or 5. And so you're right, Netherlands, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand, Canada have all done it. It went through, I've been lecturing at money shows for 10 years about how well it went in Canada and why it should be used here. And we're at a point now in our country, Joni Ernst, senator from Iowa, Republican, put it on her top list. I've given these articles to Randy Weber, Brian Babin, Beth Van Dyne in Dallas, Republican congressmen, to bring it forward. And I've written about it in Coin Age, AMAX magazine, sent it in to other people, and other people have written about it too. It's something that we can go back and forth on, but in the end, it's something that should happen. It's not one of those right-wing or left-wing things. It's just American things to do.
With eliminating the penny, we got rid of that. Okay, so now gas is no longer $2.99. It's either $3 or $2.95, right? Something to that effect.
Right.
I think it would all average out in the end anyway. But what's that mean for the nickel? Do they have to increase production on that? If so, and I heard it costs more to make the nickel than it does the penny. But
costs over 11 cents to make a nickel. But I think this is a stair-step process, not a shock and awe for the American public. Let's get through the penny and then move on to the nickel. We'd also save money, like in Canada, removing the dollar bill and using the warehouse full of dollar coins we have, just because of wear and tear and time and what it costs. But I think the American public might not like that. But somewhere down the line, we should get rid of the nickel, too.
So, we're pretty much digital. Everybody uses an ATM or a credit card.
Let me interrupt you. 18% of all transactions now are cash. 82% are not cash. It's reduced tremendously.
Wow. So, if we're getting rid of the 1 cent, so to speak, you can kind of keep it if we went all digital, right? You could keep things at $2.99 if you wanted to or something along those lines.
Sure.
What do you see for the future of actual hard currency in terms of use in the country in the future?
I think it'll continue to reduce. But one thing I want to say is that if we go to rounding rules and people have pennies and people don't accept it, like I go to ball games, college and pro, and they won't accept cash now.
I know, it's crazy.
Which is kind of wild. But your pennies, you could still go to the bank and turn them all in to get other units.
So are there major environmental benefits to eliminating the penny? Are there pros to that as well?
Well, zinc, there are some benefits because some of the zinc mining has environmental issues. By the way, an aside, friends of mine who live out in California said it was very toxic to the ground and the environment there when these EV cars burned up and the batteries leached into the soil.
So let's do a little civics here, though, because, Congress holds the purse, right? Does Trump have the authority to stop minting pennies without congressional approval?
Temporarily, because the Treasury orders per demand, but he can't do it permanently. So it needs congressional action.
But maybe it's an optics thing. Maybe he wants to go in and say, hey,
maybe it's like he's calling for it and he wants action on it so it can happen. But it makes sense. Obama called for it in 2013. Yeah. And so, Mint directors, Ed Moy, Philip Deal. Philip was appointed by the Clinton administration, Ed Moy by the Bush administration, David Ryder by the Trump administration and the Bush administration. All of them had called for the end of it. Congress needs to act on this.
So I'm really curious to see how it goes. I'm ready to get rid of the penny. I have no problem with that at all. I like the idea of rounding. There are some people who say it wouldn't, the rounding system may not be fair to the customers and might benefit the company, but I don't know.
And I would say Robert Waples, an economist who teaches at Wake Forest, studied it, and his conclusion was it doesn't hurt the poor.
I love it.
There's studies by leading economists at leading universities. Wake Forest is definitely a leading university who say opposite to that. But, I looked at all the pros and cons, and there are some cons, but I think the pros win over on that.
All right, so, Mike, we're going to see the penny go away, followed by perhaps the nickel at some point in time. It'll be interesting in terms of what the future of all this currency is. In your drawer, I remember seeing as a kid, sometimes they're like, if you have a 19, whatever it is, penny with a D on it, it's worth X amount of dollars. Are there really rare pennies out there? And what's it mean for the stock of pennies that people have? Should they be, going through those to find some of those rare pennies? And what's out there?
I was a coin nerd growing up. I went to the bank and got rolls of pennies and turned them in and looked and spent hours and hours on only one TV channel, and there was no Foot Lockers, as they say back then. So I never found a rare coin, but I did find silver in Beaumont, Texas, where people made money, is finding dimes, quarters, and halves dated 1964 and before. Silver's up so much, they're worth about 22 times face value. Wow. If you got 2 silver halves, it's worth $22. And people have made good money on that. So I would tell your listeners, you may not find anything in the pennies like a 1909 San Francisco mint with the initials Victor D. Brennan, VDB, on the back. That's the rare one. But you can find silver coins if grandpa or grandma or auntie leaves it for you from 1964 before, dimes, quarters, and halves, and multiply your money by 20-plus fold.
Yeah. Well, your website, if people want to learn a little bit more, what's the best place to go? So universalcoin.com?
Just go universalcoin.com.
All right,
we've signed Kevin O'Leary as a partner in this, and Mr. Wonderful says, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold, and you can see Kevin O'Leary on our site, too.
Before I let you go, gold right now I think is $2,900 an ounce or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the latest number was. Last week I saw that number. I'm like, it was 28 just before that. Now the government is talking about maybe reevaluating their gold. Is gold going to be a great investment? It sounds like it is.
I think so, and I've been saying so for a few years now. I mean, it more than doubled the Dow and S&P since 2000. I think it will continue upward. I've written about it, and our debt at $36 trillion plays a part in that, and the demand for gold. And so I think gold and silver will be a good place to be for a while.
Well, good.
Gold's right now $29.07. Ticker at the top of my website.
Wow.
Silver's $32.12. And, gold was up 27% last year. Silver was up 23%. We have a shortage of silver the last 5 years due to industrial use.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Well, I got to leave it right there. I'm up against the clock. Hey, Mike,
Hey,
you know how it works.
you.
Thank you for being here. Great talking with you. Appreciate your insights.
You too. Appreciate you reaching out. Bye-bye.
Hey, you can join me and listen on the Relevant Radio app to the Drew Mariani Show live each weekday at 2 to 5 Central. Thanks for listening.